Hello, my name's Jade and today I will be going through all the books I read in April. I nearly forgot what month it is. The first book I finished this month was House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. This is the first book in the Crescent City series, which is a new adult fantasy series that Sarah has begun writing. I read this over my Easter period and I did technically start it in March. I audiobooked this one. I audiobooked all of the Throne of Glass series, which I love, and I loved the audiobooks for. Elizabeth Evans did them and she is so good, and like I just kind of associate her voice with Sarah J. Maas books now. Took a little minute to adjust to kind of the woman who normally talks about kind of this medievally style of fantasy from Throne of Glass, talking about all the things that goes down in here, but I did it, I got there, and it was great. I love her. I loved this book so much. It was so good. It was such a promising first book. So much happened. It's gigantic. It's like 800 pages long. And I had a blast. The world is really unique and cool. It's kind of like a modern day fantasy. There's cars and corporates, and you can feel that we're only on the tip of the iceberg with this book, that there's so much more that can go down. Really, this one feels like we're spending more times with the characters and establishing them and their relationships and who they are, which is great because now we have all this depth to them that it's only going to get better from here. I love this book. I'm going to have a full video discussing it up relatively soon. If it's not already up, I'll leave a link in the description when it is up. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Great. Loved it. Had a blast. So excited for the rest of the series. Next up, I read the first 3 volumes of Giant Days. This is a graphic novel. Are they all by different people? This was by Alison Treman and Cougar. Alison Treman, Sarin and Cougar. Alison, Sarin and Cougar. 3. They look like this. The premise for Giant Days is we follow 3 girls in university, their first year of university, and they become friends, and we just kind of follow their trials and tribulations of being at this age and kind of experience all the things university students experience. We focus on like mental health and relationships and friendships and a whole variety of different fun, wacky stuff. There's like a bajillion of these out already, so there's a lot to catch up on. They're definitely like a easy, quick, fun, cute read. They're really funny, I found. I think the first one was the funniest in my opinion. And if like you've gone to university and you've had these experiences, or I don't know, I related to them so hard. Like I recognized things that was happening. It touches on such a big variety of themes that I think they're also quite cleverly done. The art style was really cute and fun and colourful. Although it does change ever so slightly from the first volume to the second 2. I don't know how to describe it other than it just kind of gets more cartoony and less detailed. I do miss the art style from the first one. That was my favorite. I was kind of upset when I realized that it changed slightly. There were 1 or 2 issues that just kind of seemed a little bit less believable to me than others. Chapter 6 in particular kind of felt like it came out of left field, and I don't think I enjoyed the 3rd one quite as much as the first 2. I think the first one might be my favourite of the 3 that I've read so far. 3rd one is just we're focused on the campaign a lot and it's not as much fun shenanigans going on. I would give like a 7. That sounds harsh. They were fun and cute, but I've not really thought about them tons since. The next book I read this month was King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo, the first book in the Nikolai duology, and then actually kind of straight after it I've read Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo as well. Look at these books, how beautiful are they? Look at how shiny this one. I was expecting this one to be shiny as well, and it's not, but it is kind of pearlescent, which is cool. Doesn't kind of completely match though. I love the covers. I love the little details in them. Like there's stuff in each of the corners. There's stuff in each of the corners in this one as well. And like this one, we have Zoya, Nikolai, and Nina, the wolf. I don't know who the bird is, and it's really bothering me. And this one we have the thorns and the roses, and we have a dragon again, and a ship, and we have the buildings of Ravka, and they're beautiful. But wait, there's more. Look at this. This one's even better, I think. I think this is the one I prefer of the 2 of them. Look at those spines! So this takes place after, chronologically, both the Grisha trilogy and also the Six of Crows duology. So you have to read both the Grisha trilogy and the Six of Crows duology to read these 2. Things will be spoiled for you if you don't. The Grisha world is so interesting and in depth, and it's such a cool, unique world. I love it so much. The thing with Lee's books, there's just something about them I don't quite click with. I can't put my finger on what it is. It's something in the writing. I feel like there's a distance between me and what's happening in the book, but I still enjoyed them nonetheless. I think I'd give both of them an 8 out of 10. There were a couple of things that bothered me in King of Scars. So then in Rule of Wolves, in the beginning, I was thinking, yeah, you know, this is cool. We're rocking, we're grooving. I'm probably gonna like this one more than King of Scars. And then it just kind of felt a little bit anticlimactic in the end, and I don't know why. There's not really a tangible reason as to why that is. It's just the way I felt. The same thing happened with the Six of Crows duology. I went into Crooked Kingdom thinking like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna have the problems like I did in Six of Crows. I'm gonna like this one more. In the beginning I was loving it more, and then I didn't love the ending. I will also say that somewhere in and around reading them, I did listen to the Lives of Saints audiobook, which is narrated by the same person who narrates the Nikolai duology as well. I think she narrated the Grisha trilogy, and she was also in the Six of Crows duology. She did Inej. That's why I decided to listen to the audiobooks, because the lady that voiced Inej, like, yes, I'll listen to Inej read me the Nikolai duology with pleasure. But also Ben Bars, who plays the Darkling in the Netflix show. Their narration was really great. It has this really great fairy tale folklore tone. She gets it spot on. This is, if you didn't know, it's a collection of like short stories, I guess, about the histories of the saints and just stories relating to the saints, and it was nice to get to hear some of them, because we hear references throughout, and just to know kind of the actual story around some of them was nice, but it wasn't like mind-blowing or crazy, you know, entertaining or anything. It's only like 2 hours long. The illustrations are really nice. Like, it's a really nice quality book. I love the fact that it actually looks like what it would look like in the Grisha world. Glad to have read it. It's a pretty book. I wouldn't give it anything more than a 7 out of 10 though. I guess now would also be a good time to mention that I am currently reading The Language of Thorns, Midnight Tales and Dangerous Magic, which is the other kind of short story companion to the Grishaverse. So once I've read this, I'm up to date on the Grishaverse. I also watched the Shadow and Bone TV show. Most of it, I have 2 episodes to go. So far, I'm loving it. I give it like an 8, maybe even a 9 out of 10. I've got 2 episodes to go, so I'm not 100% sure. But I have little nitpicky things that I just wish were fleshed out better, because with the TV show, we have time. I think I would have wanted like another episode, just so we can have these little nitpicky things fleshed out, and just to see more training in the little palace in general. But overall, I'm very happy with it, and I'm very excited for season 2 already. The next book I read this month, or listened to rather, there's an audiobook version of 2 short stories by Sally Rooney, one of them being Mr. Salary. I think this was my favourite of the stories, but the other one, Colour and Light, I believe it's called, I think might be stronger. This one is the kind of short story you need to sit and ponder on and read. I wish there was a physical edition so that I could go through and annotate it and analyse it. I think this one has the most lying under the surface in it. And this one does too, and I think you can analyse this one too, but this one's a little more like happy, and it's a little more conclusive. The very last line in it is the only thing that kind of is like, whoa, hang on, what? Whereas this one, there's just a lot of ambiguity going on, and it's interesting to kind of theorize what's going on there, and if there's anything we didn't perhaps see, because that's my theory, that there's something we didn't quite see happen between them. I enjoyed both of them. I think I'd give both of them 8 out of 10 at this point, but if I sat and really analysed them and thought about what was brewing under the surface, I think it could easily be a 9 or a 10. And while we're talking about Sally Rooney, I finally finished the Normal People TV show. I don't have too many in-depth thoughts, other than, oh my god, it was like reading the book all over again. Like, it wasn't necessarily scene for scene exactly how I imagined it looking. When I watched Catching Fire, this is the best example, it was literally how I imagined everything looking in my head on the screen. And it wasn't like that necessarily, but like how the way things played out was exactly how I imagined them playing out. Connell and Marianne, the actors, Connell especially, his performance, man, it got to me at times. Marianne, she was also great. I know that the actress who played her is going to play Kaya in the adaptation for Where the Cool Dads Sing, so I'm interested in that. Very different type of character. She also, did you know that she's English? The actress that plays her is English. Watching her in interviews with her English accent is so weird. Her voice is like higher pitched, but the TV show is phenomenal. It is exactly like the book in all the best ways. The only episode they changed is the last episode, And I think they kind of changed it for the better. Like, it works for the medium a lot better. I understand why the book ended the way it did, and I wouldn't necessarily want to change the book, but I felt much more uplifted at the end of the TV show as opposed to the book. I liked the changes they made, and that's the only real thing they changed. I loved the episode in Italy. Is in Italy. I was looking forward to it for so long. The episode where she's in Switzerland was really well done. The episode where they have that conversation in the kitchen and he's all bloody was great. Just everything was so good. And like when the end and we got the flashbacks from the beginning of the season when they were younger, I hadn't realized how different they looked, how well they had aged these actors who obviously hadn't actually aged. It was so good. It was so good. 10 out of 10. 5 out of 5 stars. Phenomenal. I loved it so hard. Back to books. The next book I finished was Runaway Train by Lee Matthew Goldberg. This is from a smaller publishing company that I followed on Instagram, and I saw this cover. Look at how gorgeous this cover is. And I then read the premise. Roughly, it's the 90s. Peak grunge scene. Our lead character loves Nirvana and all things grunge and all things 90s music, and she's kind of a mess right now because her sister died and she's not dealing with it very well. And so she gets a bucket list and she goes on a road trip to tick off the things on her bucket list. Bucket list, road trip book, 90s, grunge music, 16-year-old girl in crises. Like, what more could you want from a book? The writing and the plot at times was a little bit messy, but it fits the book because their main character is a mess. And at first I was like, I kind of could take it or leave it. Like, the writing feels like it's trying too hard. Every phrase needs to sound funny or catchy. No words are kind of normal words. Everything's like all the time, But again, that kind of fits the main character. So I don't know if that was purposefully done. It just grated at me at times because it was so constant. I needed minutes where things were just like down and normal. Because it's written by a dude, an adult dude, there are a couple of things that as a 16-year-old girl she either said or she did that made me go just a little bit. But in the end, I really enjoyed the story. I got really attached to the character. I didn't realize how much character growth she had until the end, and it blew my mind. I was like, oh my, I didn't even see it. But she's completely different. I loved some of the characters we met along the way. I think that was my problem in the beginning, is she would stop at these places and do this stuff, and it would go so quickly. We didn't stop and breathe at all, and that's the one thing I kind of wanted plot-wise to change. But it found its groove, and I teared up at times. That's how much it got to me. Tears leaked down my face. So overall, I did really enjoy it, and I do think it's definitely very impactful. The way she deals with grief and fixing her life was very deep and well done, I think. And if you love anything 90s, if you love a road trip book, if you love music, if you want a story about grief, this book, it's worth checking out. I would give it a 7 out of 10. Solid 7 out of 10. And the last book I have to talk about today is The Counterfeiters by André Gide. In French, I think it's Les Faux Meilleurs. This book touches a lot of different themes. I read it for research for my novel. It takes place in 1920s Paris, which is the same time my novel takes place. And it looks at middle class men mostly, and artists and writers and their thought process and their ideas. The characters, there's a really broad spectrum and they all connect, and so the storyline has this weird connecting way about it, and it's very episodical. One thing always leads to the next, which leads to the next, which leads to the next. The narrator style is really interesting. He's like this omniscient narrator that talks to you. Like, he says, this is what I think about my characters, as if he's written the book. It's very interesting and unique and different, and I really liked that aspect of it. And overall, I liked it more than I thought I would. 3 parts, and part 2 in Switzerland kind of dragged for me, but the first part and the second part, the last part, I enjoyed, and there were some ideas that really made me think. But overall, I didn't really understand what I was supposed to get from the plot, and there were some characters in the beginning that we never even really checked up on. We kind of did, but they kind of stopped coming up and they weren't as relevant anymore, and I was like, what was the point of them? So overall, I'd give it like a 6.5, I think, because I found it quite dense and it was kind of hard to get through at times. But it was okay, it wasn't awful. Don't forget to check the description for any other videos I mentioned throughout this one. If you have any opinions of any of the books or TV shows I've discussed in this video, please let me know down below. I love to hear what you think. I hope you have an amazing morning, afternoon, evening / night. My name's Jade. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I see you again next time. Goodbye!